This week you've been reading about the fact that worship services in the Episcopal Church in America were very long, over several hours. And you may wonder why they were so long. And as you've been reading, you've discovered it's because the Eucharistic setting was preceded by a full service of morning prayer. And morning prayer in the English Church, in the English tradition, of course, had come to be decorated by musical setting of the psalms that were appointed for the service of morning prayer for each Sunday, as well as for the canticles that followed the psalms and scripture readings and were interspersed. Those musical settings of psalms and canticles became the glory of English church music in the 16th and 17th centuries. And of course, they were incorporated into American worship as well, as American churches began to have choirs. I thought I would bring to your attention today not only material about the production of the first American Book of Common Prayer, but also the work of the first distinctly American composer, a man whose work was adopted not only among Congregationalists, by Methodists and Episcopalians. Indeed, he had a profound influence on the worship life of American churches in the 18th century. And that composer is William Billings, who was born October 7th, 1746, and died September 26th, 1800. He was the first American published composer, publishing psalms and hymns. He was the inventor of what are called fuguing songs, where you have a voice that begins a melody that then is imitated by another voice that enters in an interval of time following, and then another voice, and then another voice. They're not fully developed fugues in the way that Johann Sebastian Bach would have envisioned a fugue, but they were certainly lovely contrapuntal pieces that were wildly appealing in the 18th century. He was born in Boston, Massachusetts, with vision in only one eye. His legs were uneven. He wasn't very good about his personal hygiene. He had a snuff habit, which he managed to dribble all over himself, and his clothes often weren't clean. But he is a remarkable talent nonetheless. He began studying music as a local boy with a local choir master. Then he studied more formally Tonsur's musical grammar and various psalm books, and by the late 1760s he had become America's first professional composer. By trade, during the day, he worked as a leather tanner, and then in the evenings began teaching singing classes in Stoughton, Massachusetts, which would later become the Stoughton Musical Society, which was America's oldest musical society, America's oldest singing school. He organized the first church choir in America. In 1770, he made history with the publication of a book called The New England Psalm Singer. Sometimes it's entitled The American Chorister. It had a frontispiece engraved by Paul Revere. Yes, that Paul Revere of the famous Ride and the famous silversmith. His songbook was the first one published with materials completely written by an American, and included over 120 compositions. His songs were published in other books as well. Most important, The Singing Master's Assistant in 1776, and in 1779, Music in Miniature. By 1790, there was hardly an American psalm book in any denominational congregation that didn't contain some or several of his psalm settings. With the advent of the American Revolution, the first American popular songs emerged from Billings' Psalter. So he would take tunes that he had composed for settings of the Psalms, and then he would transpose them to political lyrics of the day in support of the Revolution, for which he was a passionate advocate. The biggest success of Billings' career was a tune called Chester. I'm going to give you a link to a setting of Chester performed by a brass choir. It became a favorite of patriots. Indeed, it becomes really America's first military psalm. But I'm also going to include a couple of selections which are among Billings' best known. The first is a Christmas anthem set to a text from Luke chapter 2. It's when the angels appear in heavenly chorus to the shepherds after the birth of Jesus. And then I'm also going to include an anthem called the Easter Anthem to a resurrection text. The Easter Anthem is performed by the Hillier Consort, and the Shepherd's Anthem, the Christmas Anthem, by the Waverly Consort. Very beautiful recordings. I hope you enjoy them. Yes.